So there's nothing quite as frustrating as doing a bunch of work and having your work disappear, or you have trouble, break something, and have to start over. And us in the computer world are always worried about this, and so we have a lot of different backup techniques and strategies to make sure that you're less likely to have this happen. In this video, I'm going to cover the backups that are available here in the editor, some tips for how to do it, the best ways to back things up, and how to use some of the functionality that will help you avoid these issues. The first thing I wanted to mention is that your site is automatically saved all the time. It just, as you make changes, then it just automatically gets saved as it goes along. Now that doesn't save it to the live site. The site that you see, that the public can see, doesn't happen until you hit republish. Then all the changes that you've made since last time you published become live. So the first level of backup that we have is regular backups, which is under settings and then backup site, and this backs up the entire site, and it automatically happens often, every time you publish, I think, or at very least or just often. It happens often that there's backups in here, but you can save your own backup as well. So if you're about to make a bunch of changes to the site, it's not a bad idea to run a backup. It doesn't hurt anything. You can run unlimited backups. So you just put in a name. It's going to have the date next to it. See, this is what the backups look like. So you can put it as, pre home page update. Whatever makes sense to you. It doesn't really need to make sense to anybody else. And it just creates a restore point. Now, the drawback to this is that it restores the entire site. So if you make a whole lot of changes and then you want to restore it, it's going to restore and it'll write over all of the changes that you made. So the more frequently you make backups, the easier it is to have a restore point. But this is kind of the last line of defense, in my opinion. So if things go really wrong, then you can go back and restore it. I'm going to give you a couple of other ways of doing it that are more finite, so that you don't have to back up the entire site, or you don't have to restore the entire site if there's a problem. And this is what I do more often, as far as making it easy for me to restore things for minor problems. And I should mention too, I kind of glazed over it there, but if you want to restore the site, you just have to click the restore button. It'll come up and say, are you sure you want to restore it? The current version, live at this moment, won't change until it's republished, blah, blah, blah. It gives you the things about it. And then you hit yes and it restores it. So the next level of backup, which isn't technically a backup, but a similar concept, is a page level, what I call a page level backup. So you can make a copy of a page. So let's say I'm going to work on the email page here. Then you can click on the little gear that's under pages on the side. So you go to pages, back up here, pages, and then click on the gear next to the page that you want to work on, and you can create a duplicate. You can create a duplicate. I'm just going to keep it as copy of, and hit duplicate. Now note, this is going to put it at the bottom. It's going to put it in the menu temporarily. And if you want to keep this backup for some length of time, if you're just going to keep it there until you're done editing the email, you don't need to worry about it too much. But if you're going to keep it after you have republished and everything, then you want to take a couple extra steps here. You can click on the gear for the copy, and you click on hide in navigation, because we don't really need it, the copy in the navigation. Hide it all, on all, and then also in the gear we go to SEO, and no index, which stops Google from trying to index that page. And that's if you're going to publish it. If you're going to publish the site with this backup on there, then this is a good idea to do. I just close that. And this is the copy. You can see up here it tells you what page you're on. This is the copy of the email page. Now, as far as restoring it, I'll give you two ways. One is the easiest way to restore, or the best way a lot of times to restore something if you're going to use a page level backup, is I'm assuming a situation might happen where something goes wrong with an individual element on the page. So you're editing, let's go to the live email page here. Like I said, it looks the same. So let's say I accidentally delete a row that I don't want to delete. Delete. Now I have a missing row on my regular email page. And let's say I accidentally delete all the text off of here. And I'm going to give you some other tips for this kind of stuff, but for now I'm going to just show you this way. So let's say I have those two problems on this page. I could restore the whole page, but I'm going to show you that, and it's a little complicated, so it's better to do it this way. We go to the copy of email page. Oh, we still have the Zoho over here. And what I would do is I would copy the entire row, although you could also, like in this case, the paragraph is what we messed up, so we can copy the paragraph. You just click on it, you right click on it and choose copy. Then you go back over to email. You right click on the element that's currently there, hit paste, and it'll paste the new one in that position, and then you can just delete the one that's broken. And now that's fixed. Now for the row, we can copy an entire row, and that's the next thing I'm going to show you, is a row backup, which is by far what I use most of the time. Copy of email. So it was the Office 365 row that I accidentally deleted. Hit copy. So we just click on the row. You can right click or regular click on the row, but right click and choose copy. Go back over here. Go back to the email. And the only thing about this is that sometimes the alignment is kind of confusing. You can see we have two lines here. And I don't even remember where it pastes it. If it pastes it above or below what the element. I think it pastes it below, so we'll do it here. Paste. Nope, it pasted above it. So to move a row, then you just hit row, arrow. And I could have done that with a row. I could have moved this row down by clicking the little arrow, or I could have moved this one up. It's what I did. So now this is all fixed up. Once this page is the way it is, then I'm going to go through and delete the copy of email. But I'm going to give you a secondary way of handling. If you wanted to restore the entire page, let's say this entire page, you're like, I decided I don't want to use this new page I've been working on, or sometimes what you'll do is you'll make a copy of the email page, work on it on the copy until you get it the way that you want it to be, and then you'll want to replace the current email page with that new copy. So if you're redoing the entire page one way or another, then you want to copy over the email page. So here are the steps for that. In the pages, first thing you want to do is you want to rename the existing email page. Both rename it, and then we'll change it, the page URL, so I'll show you that, but we can go ahead and rename it. So I'm just going to name it old. It's just a temporary thing that we're going to have here. Rename it. And then I'm going to change the page URL, but I'm going to pay attention to what this page URL is. It's just email, so it's easy. But I need to know what it is because that's what I want to name the new one that I'm replacing it with. So I'm going to change this to old -email. And personally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy in fact, actually what I would recommend is before you edit this, copy, you do copy, and then you can put whatever you want to make it something different. In this case, old. Hit save. It's going to come up with a redirection, and in this case we're not going to use that, so we don't want to add that redirection. And then we go back to our copy of our email, drag this into place, and we unhide it, and we rename it email name, and we edit the SEO, two things, and we put the index back on for the SEO. And if you scroll up, you can see that the page URL is here in the same area. Once you get into the settings, it has either the page URL or SEO or set password. That's all in one menu. But anyhow, or you go to settings and page URL, and then we make it just email. And that's what I have it in the my clipboard because I copied it, so I can just paste it. But or you type it in, make a note of it, whatever it is. Now that page is right, and then this is your old page. Probably at this point I'm just going to delete this old page, and you can click on the gear and hit delete. You could, if you want to save it as a backup, then like you're not positive that you want to keep it changed, or you're going to flip-flop between two different formats or something like that, then you can do hide on navigation and SEO no index, and that basically makes it invisible except to you. So those are your two options for how to handle that, and that's a page backup. One other note about that page restore, the only page that doesn't work on is the home page. So if you do that same thing where you make a new home page, you would need to go through row by row and copy over the rows into the new place and delete the old rows. So the home page you can't delete or rename, so you can't do that same function where you restore a whole page when it comes to the home page. Now let's go to rows. Now, like I said, this is my most common tool, partially because how I do the layouts is I will make a master layout that has the kind of layout that I want, and then I'll copy it. But in general, if I'm going to edit something that I'm concerned about that I might mess up, a row, then what I'll do is I'll copy the row. So if I hit copy, and then I just go back to row again and hit paste, well, now I have two copies of it, and I can work on the new one, say okay, I'm going to make changes to this one, change to either one. Really, it doesn't make much difference, because then whichever one is right at the end, I just delete the other one. Row, delete, like that. So that's how you do rows. The only other thing I would pay attention to on this is that if there's an anchor set, which there isn't in this case, but let's say that you have it in the menu so that people can go down to these pages, you can check that easily because it'll say edit anchor. So if I hit set an anchor here, I'll show you what I mean. I'm not going to add it to the navigation, and okay. So now if I hit row on this one, it'll say edit anchor instead of what it says otherwise, which is set as anchor. So that's one thing to look at with the rows, especially if you're copying a row that you didn't do. If you created the row, you don't have to worry about it unless you set an anchor in it. But if you didn't set an anchor in it, there's not an anchor there. The anchors just make it so people can link to that section, and so that can create a little bit of confusion. And then it does matter which one you edit and stuff like that, because you don't want it to go to a different section than what the anchor was set for. So restoring it's all one function. So on the same level, if I do edit copy and paste to create the extra row, and now I'm working on this row and I mess it up somehow, I don't know, I accidentally delete the image and stuff, and this row is all messed up, I still have the original here, and I can just delete this row and make a copy. I can also, let's say I've made adjustments to part of this, but then I accidentally mess up another part. So I delete this. I accidentally delete the image. Well, I could copy the image from over here. So if I right copy, then paste. Or, I could make another copy of the site and another copy and paste in and make another copy of the row. Copy, paste. Now I have a third copy, and this one's right except for the paragraph that I changed over. I can drag the paragraph into place and delete the old paragraph. And then delete the old row, and then this is my new updated row, although in this case, since there was an example, this is actually the broken one. And then I would just delete this row and it'd be all set. If for some reason you don't want to delete a row, you're unsure, you do have the option of, on a row, or an element for that matter, but on a row, of hiding it. So you can hide it. Hide on device. You have to do it on all of them individually, because it's mostly made to make it so you can hide something from mobile or hide something from desktop that's for mobile. So what you want to do is you want to start at the bottom, because if you hide it for the desktop, then you won't be able to see it to do the next step. So you do hide on mobile, hide on tablet, hide on desktop. See how it disappeared when I did that? Now, if I want to see it, there's this little icon is on any page that has a hidden element. I hit that and see how it's grayed out, and then I can click on this and it says unhide, yes. And what that did is it unhid it on desktop. So it's still hidden on tablet and phone right now. So if I want to unhide it all the way, I need to go through and uncheck those. So that's if you, I don't know, have a row that you want to delete temporarily, or you're not sure if you like it within the page, but you want to hide it so that you can republish it. This would only really be the case if you're going to republish and you don't want to, or if you've been working on a row but it's not done, then you can hide it this way so that people don't see it until you're ready for them to see it. That's how you hide it. And also, for that matter, if something like, let's say this image is too big and it doesn't, you don't like how it looks on mobile, then you could hide it on mobile. As an example. Usually you wouldn't hide something on tablet specifically, but it's possible. I can't think of why right now. So now let's look at the most finite control, which is undo. So there's two sets of undo functions. The first is when you're actually in a text document. I believe, let's see here, I should have checked this before I said it. Oh yeah, there is an undo box. So if I'm here on typing some extra text, or I go through here and hit delete and accidentally delete a bunch of text, I can hit this undo here and it'll put it back. Now if I click away from it, I'm not 100% positive, I guess. Let's see here. Copy. I'm going to do an old school backup here. The old school backup is you'd open up Notepad and paste the text into it. This really old school backup, just so I have the text in case it goes wrong. And then I'm just going to delete a couple of words here and close it. Now I believe, let's see here, this undo is for the site. Extra text, yeah. So when you do undo this stuff for the site, then it goes back to the last edit that was on the site as a whole. It doesn't affect the text as much. Oh, I see. Yeah, so it doesn't even, it went back to the one where I didn't have, because I just copied it and pasted, so I didn't had typing some extra text, and then I deleted extra text, and that was what I had on here last. And then it went back to the last revision I made. So it undid series of tags. So basically my only point here is that if you're in the midst of a text edit, then you can use that undo button thing. And it works just like it would in like, you see how each character is going away, like in Word or whatever that you'd expect. But that's within the session. So once you hit the checkbox or you click away from it, to then that session is over, and the undo doesn't work within the text box. Now what you'll more often use this undo for, the page undo, is, let's say, well, I'll show you the most common reason that you'd want to use this that comes up is when you add a widget. So this will be in the troubleshooting thing. I'll talk about this a little more. But when you add a widget, let's say I want to add a text block under here. It has a function which is nice sometimes, but is not nice other times, which makes it so that depending on where you're dragging it on the page, it may try and create a new row. See how it says insert into row? Or sometimes it'll try and create a new column. And sometimes that's not what you want to have happen. So let's say I'm trying to put this just under here in the same row, but then I accidentally drag it in and make it into a column. Now I would, in order to get rid of that column, I'd have to delete the text and delete the column, and then it would put it back. But then another way to handle that, and the quickest way, is to just hit the undo button. So I had to hit it twice because I had done two things. I drug it in there, and then I saved the text. So it does more global undo, but it's handy for that kind of thing. And I might as well show you at the same time. Again, I'll show this in the troubleshooting, but if you're running into a problem where it doesn't seem like it wants to go where you want it to go, and it just seems like it's being troublesome, you can drag it off this, off the screen. I'm out of the window and let go. Oh, I take it back and added a column that way. So that would definitely be a situation where I'm not sure what it did there. It did something odd, so that's a good place to undo. Huh. There you go. So, fix it back up. So anyhow, I would say you'd want to use this undo kind of sparingly, because sometimes it just undoes something that you're not expecting it to undo or whatever. So, but that's another function that goes along with backups. Another thing that I'd recommend that you do is, if you're going to be doing a lot of writing, so you're going to rewrite a paragraph or more, several paragraphs or whatever, then it may make sense to go ahead and write that in Word first, or Notepad, or whatever editor you want to use. But as opposed to just sitting here and writing, you're rewriting and editing here in this little editor here. This will work, but because it's automatically saving and everything, then it's possible for something to go wrong and you to lose this. Also, if you lose your internet connection, it may cause problems. So it's better to create the content that you want to have on there and then paste it into here. Now, when you're doing that in Word or whatever, first of all, when you paste something in here, then you want to paste as plain text. So I'll pretend this is Word text. I do paste as plain text. It's the option. And then also, you don't want to do the formatting and stuff in Word, like bolding and stuff like that, because when you paste the plain text, it's going to get away from that. And lastly, when you paste from Word, a lot of times the paragraphs won't be fully formed, so you'll have just one space between the first paragraph and the second paragraph. So then you have to go back through and just put in those paragraphs. You just have to go back in and just put in the paragraphs. It's not that hard, but those are a couple of notes about how that works. And but if you have it in, the thing about having it in Word is that both, if something goes wrong here, then you're able to just paste it in, and you're not starting from scratch. Also, Word has arguably a better spell checker, so you can run the spell checker on Word and stuff like that. So that would be the last of my tips about editing without fear. So hopefully that gives you the confidence that you can go ahead and make the changes you need to make, and you're not concerned about losing your work. And feel free to let me know if there's any questions you have about it, or if you've run into any problems or solutions that I have missed. I appreciate your time today. Thanks.